Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Dotson, and I am your host for Poetry Today. I am thrilled to have Nancy L. Davis with us. And Nancy is the 2026 Prairie State Poetry Prize winner for a first or second manuscript. And Highland Park Poetry Press just published her winning manuscript, Voices in the Sky. Nancy Davis is a poet, fiction writer, and retired associate professor of English whose work has appeared in Cutthroat, Best of Philadelphia Stories, Connecticut River Review, Super Present, The Dewdrop, Evening Street Review, Amethyst, The Orchards Poetry Journal, and elsewhere. Ghosts, her chapbook, was published in 2019 by Finishing Line Press. In 2020, her poems were longlisted for the Disquiet Literary Seminar in Lisbon, and again in 2022 for the Bedford International Prize in Poetry. Her work has earned a Pushcart Prize nomination, first place in the Sandy Crimmins National Poetry Prize, second place in Chicagoland Poets and Patrons 67th Annual Poetry Contest, honorable mention in the Joy Harjo Award, and the Atlanta Review's International Merit Award. She's a native of upstate New York. She lives with her husband, Rick Capoletti. Whoops, oh gosh.
That's right.
All right. In Park Ridge, Illinois, and Long Beach, Indiana, on Lake Michigan. They have one daughter, Julia, and son-in-law, Ferris. Oh, wow, Nancy, I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
And this is such a marvelous occasion to celebrate the publication of your book.
It's very exciting. And it came out beautifully. All those hours of poring over it, the last several months, making sure everything was in place and changing things if they weren't, has paid off. I'm really happy with it. Oh, and I thank you for all your time and the opportunity.
Well, no, Highland Park Poetry is thrilled to represent your first collection.
Thank
it's
you.
Very exciting. But let's start talking about writing in general. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit how you got into poetry.
Well, I'm one of those people who at a very young age loved to write. As a grade schooler, I would write plays and make all my friends, take parts in them, whether they wanted to or not. That gravitated toward short stories and then eventually poetry, I think. Okay. Like so many other youngsters, I was hooked on Edgar Allan Poe. We're talking 7th grade. Yeah. And I would start trying my hand at poetry. And that just ballooned and stayed with me really until now. In undergraduate, I wrote my senior thesis, which had to be juried as a full-length collection of poetry.
Oh, wow.
And that was tremendous experience and training for future writing, because I would sit down every week with my mentor and patiently watch her go through line by line and slash and question marks. Okay. She was wonderful. She was wonderful to work with, but I learned so much through that experience and that process. And then I also was reading full-time contemporary and modern poets, and had to write a critical introduction using, some of what I'd read. So that was just incredible training for the discipline of writing, and specifically in this case poetry, but also transferred later to fiction writing. I actually got my MFA in fiction writing at University of Massachusetts, Amherst, but did take some poetry writing classes there as well. So, so I've just, even though one has to earn a living, even through my various occupations, I would try to keep it up either early mornings or when I was teaching, not teach in the summers and use the summers. So that's, now I'm retired, and it's wonderful that I have this time to really spread my wings and do more.
So
of what
now
I love.
Asking for a friend, now that you're retired, do you find that you were disciplined about getting up in the morning, or schedule, or how do you do it?
It's funny. I was thinking about this question earlier, that it might come up. I think I was more disciplined day by day when I had less time. When I was working and raising a family, just because I had to be more disciplined. Sure. I'm very disciplined now, but it isn't necessarily an everyday thing for writing per se, but certainly, as writing and then publishing, marketing it, sending things out, revising, getting involved in different workshops, all of that becomes very full-time. So I feel that in my head, I'm always thinking of projects, new projects, whether I'm actually sitting down and writing every day or not.
Okay.
It's constantly swirling. You know?
Yes. Okay. All right. Um, so talk to me a little bit about this particular manuscript and its coming together.
Yeah, this probably was a 6-year venture. I had the chapbook. I think that was 2019 when that was published. And then, of course, soon after that was COVID. So I was able to really deep dive and spend a lot of time writing and getting involved on Zoom workshops, which actually was probably about the only great thing about COVID, was that people were able to get together across country, even internationally. And so that just opened a lot of doors for me to start writing more poetry. I started to write, probably at that point, more poetry again than fiction. And little by little, I would send things out and see what responses were. And with time, some pieces were picked up in individual journals. And so I would think, okay, that's getting there. And I think just piecing it together over a period of those 5 or 6 years, the book was a finalist rather, a couple different times. So I knew, okay, I'm getting close. It's still not there, but I'm getting close. And that was encouraging. But it really, up until I submitted it to Highland Park Poetry, I was still working it. I was still massaging it, adding some things, deleting. That's kind of the way I work, as you probably figured out. I'm still, very last minute, I'm rereading, going, oh no, that isn't quite right. So, yeah, so it was pretty organic.
Oh, cool.
And then I did take a workshop with Tupelo Press, and they really were great at illustrating two important things. One was how to, where to put different poems in a book.
Oh, great.
Not to put, like, if you write longer poems, a lot of long poems all together, one after another, unless that's what you do. But better to mix it up, kind of like a repertoire for music, for a concert or recital. And then also I think the 3 sections in this book came pretty organically, looking back at the poems that I had, and I was able to group them in a way that I thought was satisfying and made sense.
Oh, good. Excellent. You mentioned earlier that you have some favorite poets that are like inspirational. Who are they, and what?
Well, in my earlier days as an undergrad, I was in love with Denise Levertov, Adrienne Rich, Anne Sexton, a lot of female poets. It was the mid 70s. So that was the time when women were, listening to their voices and experimenting with their voices. And those poets, Sylvia Plath, really spoke to me then. But I also love, and again, in the slightly earlier days, Galway Kinnell, William Stafford. I absolutely adore his poetry. Today, I really, really admire Ada Limon. I had her, not in a workshop, but she did a craft workshop on one of these Zoom seminars that I was mentioning earlier. I'm really stunned by her work. Naomi Shihab Nye, excuse me. I was introduced to her earlier, maybe 20 years ago, because a friend of mine worked at a press and had published one of her first books.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I first started following her. Elizabeth Bishop, some of the classic poets. I just always coming back to her. Seamus Heaney, who I have a short quote by him in my first section. So I'm kind of all over the place.
Yeah, right. In terms of process, do you work always alone, or do you have a writing group, or how do you get a sense that a poem is ready to submit?
That's a great question. I do sporadic poetry seminars. In fact, I was just in one in Maine in June for a week, and I worked with Julia Bausma, who's the poet laureate of Maine. So I was in workshops with her. I'm on a regular basis, however, I'm in a fiction workshop.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
again, that going back and forth.
Yeah.
So for poetry, I do have poet friends, and I'll run it by them. My husband's actually a really good reader, so I'll run something by him from time to time. And yeah, probably. I mean, it's always good to show someone before.
And now,
You submit.
speaking of showing somebody, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to read something from the book.
I'd love to. The book is divided into 3 parts, which I think I mentioned briefly. The first one is Her Funeral Filled the Road, and that is a quote from a poem by Seamus Heaney called The Lift, and it's about a young girl who has died, and the streets are filled with mourners, and they're lifting her casket at one point into the hearse, which of course would be a horse-drawn carriage. So that's the first part, and I'll read a couple of poems from this. This first part focuses more on loss, a little more personal loss than the other 2 sections. And loss, of course, can be loss of place, loss of memory, literal loss of person, someone close to me. I focused a lot on my grandparents, who had a big influence on me because they themselves weren't immigrants, but their parents were. And so we learned very closely, because we spent a lot of time with them growing up, their parents' immigrant stories, and essentially their own first generation immigrant stories in this country. So I wrote a series in this first section about my maternal grandmother. This poem is titled, My Aunt Tells the Story, 1915. He plucked her out of the church choir one day, requested she stay as others left. Your voice is genius. I will teach you. He did not disappoint. Nana was 15, fulsome in form and figure, wide widow's peak crowning her face. Her father crushed in the mines, her schooling dropped for mill work. Why wouldn't her family dream? A rare contralto with boundless range, she excelled, a quick study, prepared for more. When the wife stepped in, her own song once a gift, worn to grit, 4 children and a stray. She had been the student, all promise and blush, her pitch perfect and strong, the thrum of piano strings, inchoate and wrong. And that is based on an actual true story. The second one is in the same series, if you will, is called Evening Prayers, and this focuses more on my own close relationship with this grandmother. Evening Prayers, 1963. Evenings at my grandmother's house, dinner done, the day at rest, sunset hues casting copper pots in silence. The time I favored, lamb roasts and poppy seed rolls, slipped into starched linens, the kind grown women wear. We kneel bedside, hands clasped, elbows out, reciting the Lord's Prayer. And though abject obedience was not an oath, I could oblige. The unraveling of Nana's chestnut hair, earnest alto sighs, rosary beads clasped in hands, children's pleas, convinced my heart to pledge allegiance to the spirit woman, alchemizing fabrics, tailoring suits, stretching octaves like the weft and warp on a loom, beating twice the life of each of us, a nesting wren trilling overtime, out of breath, notes, and yarn.
So that was the same grandmother from the earlier poem.
Yes.
So she continued to be musical and to sing?
She would sing around the house.
Okay, just not for public.
She never had the opportunity to go to school. She had to drop out in 5th grade because her father was crushed in the coal mines. This is in northeastern Pennsylvania. But she was also a master seamstress. I mean, she could have been a designer. She would create her own patterns and make all the suits and clothing. We're talking very ornate articles of clothing,
Wow.
all the window dressings. I mean, pretty amazing. So she had so many talents, but the times were not
Right.
always kind to them. Although, certainly she made it work in whatever way that she could.
Well, I guess it was nice to hear that that same character then was still making music, even if in a private sphere.
Right. Yes. You tell me how much time you.
It's good. You can. More.
Okay, I'll go to a different section. The second section focuses more on societal loss than it does personal loss, and it's called Shadow Waltzing. And in this section, I will read Raven Talk, Come Autumn, Bryce Canyon. Blue-black wings silhouetting bright skies, swoop sloping across ancient canyon lands, red rock cathedral spires marking distance as the crow flies. Raven, good cousin, master of universe, fabled storyteller, mythic mischief maker, surfing currents, warning visitors, leave by dusk. Raven knows, mocks us with searing cries, imagines the uninitiated trapped on a ledge, vulnerable as Prometheus, bound to an outcrop sentenced at the will of angry gods. Onyx-eyed, wielding steel-trap claws, this age-old prophet with soaring oratory and confident cunning surveys our excess as we long jump geological ages. Warning cries echo apocal hoodoos, unforgiving of the heady and the heedless, wary of Prometheus unbound. And that was inspired by a trip to Bryce Canyon, which is a stunning place. But I like sometimes to interweave places I've been that have had some kind of effect on me with maybe something a little more important than just going to an incredible national park.
Right, sure.
Yeah, so that's that one. And let's see, the last section is more of a kind of spiritual, not redemption, that's too strong a word, but reconciliation, coming to terms with how to bridge the personal loss and the societal loss. And it's titled Mystics Dancing at Dust. And I had fun in this section. Magnetic poles are shifting. When I pass through the Bardo, let me join the pilot whale breaching frigid depths of Norwegian fjords, fresh saltwater currents, a natural bridge, or a forest where the trees have lived 1,000 lives, symbiotic communities canopying above, rooting in the underground, an alliance we scarcely know. Lead me to the caves of celebrated births, deep and sacred cavities of matriarchal worth. Infinitesimal worlds lie within our reach. I've passed through the Bardo and likely back again. I may be there now. Fern frond brushing my ankle, deep blush of summer balm, thrum of hungry swarms tunneling through dusk.
Beautiful. Lovely images.
Thank you. Are we good on time?
Yeah, no, we're good on time.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll indulge myself with one more.
Sure.
Okay. It's funny how, I'm sure you find this too, Jennifer, when you're writing, you go back and you find that you have your favorite words. Of course, you try to get rid of some of them if they're too obvious. But I did discover that dusk was one of my favorite words. For whatever reason. I really love sounds in poetry, and I think part of it is the sound of the word dusk. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is also in the last section. And this poem came about as a result of a friend telling me the story of another friend who she lives in Seattle, and she has a koi pond in her backyard, and she would get up every morning. She also was in theater,
Okay.
and sang, and apparently every morning she would go outside in her kimono and sing to her koi. And I could not get that image out of my head. It was such a wonderful.
Yeah.
I thought, how wonderful to start the day. And she's very much like that. I saw her at a reunion a few years ago, and told her I'd written this poem. Maggie sings to her koi each morning, Seattle in spring. Through the rose arbor, past the clematis, down into the grove of lodgepole pines, and under the weeping willow. Maggie walks the path to her pond each morning, carrying a basket of food for her koi. She steps to the bridge, leans into her reflection, and fanning her arm like an angel's wing, releases a handful. Dragonflies hover, double-backed and iridescent. Gnats crowd the surface. Ripples break liquid glass, revealing blurred blues and reds, yellows, oranges, flashing, sun-streaked. Maggie sings her sage kimono, shifting to notes of the Auvergne. Her favorite, rust-backed with ebony, torpedoes the cusp of their worlds in frenzied whirling. Sonorous high notes, greater sustenance than food. Hands skimming, fish shimmering. Urban echoes ricochet across the valley, calls of protest, megaphoned orders, clashing forces of glass and metal, whirring mechanical insects, muted, distant, and safe for now, trapped in the conflagration below. Pressure rising, pandemic suspended, like Maggie's high notes, wait to explode. Seamless medley of chansons, her koi, her children, circling, coiling, this private ritual, her Eden. Mm. And that first part was contrasted with the second part, where there were some demonstrations and going on about 6 years ago. Okay. Yeah.
Very cool. So what is next for you creatively?
Well, I've got a collection of short stories that I've been trying to get published. Again, it's come close several times, semi-finalist, finalist, and it's much more of a difficulty to find common. I mean, I find common threads, but these days, I think in short story collections, people want more of a theme, or an obvious theme, or they want it to be all taking place in the same place, or perhaps some of the same characters. Not always, but so I'm trying to find ways to interweave it a little more closely, and perhaps take some things out, add some things that might work better, or write some new things. Okay. So that's that. Most of that is done. I'm just tweaking it. I do have a novel that I wrote years ago, and I've come back to a couple of times, but I just don't seem to have the time to really sit down. But maybe this winter. I always say winter is the best time because there's less going on. But then there's always plenty going on. So we'll see. And I know I'll always be writing poetry. I've already written several new poems since this.
You're already working
published.
on your next.
So I'm really already working on my next
collection. Okay.
And of course, this gives me energy to keep going.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
It's great. Yeah. Well, I know that we're thrilled that you're going to be coming to Highland Park to read. For the audience, I hope that you will join us. It's going to be Saturday, September 19th, starting at 4 p.m. And our venue of choice is Secret World Books, 1774 2nd Street in Highland Park. And you'll be reading one of our featured poets, as well as Monty Middleman. And so it should be a good pairing, interesting contrasts.
Good. I really look forward to that. And I've been to one or two, and they're excellent. Yeah. I'm hoping to go to the next one too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. We always like to have a good audience.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Right.
So we're very glad that she's going to have a chance to read more poems from the book. You'll be able to purchase a copy, get it signed, that personal touch for your poetry library. And I'm sure you do have a website. What is that?
It's Nancy Lynn, LYNN Davis.com.
Okay, so if you have upcoming events, people
Right.
can follow you there and look to see what's going on and where they can hear you read.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
excellent.
Absolutely. Hmm.
All right. Well, we look to we look forward to hearing you read in September, and then also look forward to more of your writing. We hope that you'll continue to share with Highland Park Poetry, and
I'd love to. And thank you for this opportunity. I mean, you offer so many things through your organization and your own initiative. It's really, it's a gift.
well, the secret is I do things because I think they're things that I would want to do as a writer.
Right.
So
It works.
I hope that the karma
It
should be
works.
good. That was what I'm hoping. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank
That's
you,
great.
Jennifer. Yeah.